So we have this to share with others, so it looks like it is going here. So welcome to everyone. So we're in Southern California right now. We're going to prepare for Module 5. And the reason I'm kind of sitting somewhat behind you, and the slides are on the other side, is so we can record it. So thanks for doing this. So this is the preparation for our facilitation team for Module 5. There are a couple of aspects of this that are a little challenging, so I thought it would be good for me to present it to you guys and have you go through it and experience it, and then give your feedback on what you think, especially on the practice module.
So the thought is, though, that each one person will present the entire Module 5, and there's one person that's kind of back up.
Correct, yes, that's correct, yep.
And that allows us to get credit for attending it as well, so.
That's right, yeah, exactly. We'll get a chance to see it several times, that's true.
Hopefully we get credit.
Yep.
We'll get our badge.
Yep, exactly. So welcome to the class today. This will be a 90-minute module for you today. We will take a break from CX at the end of the class, so you'll get a break until February. So just hold your phone calls and bathroom breaks until that time. So we'll have until February to get that taken care of.
I love how you're already in facilitator mode.
Right, exactly. So I'm in mode. Christy and Allison will have you guys, kind of follow us along too, and we'll do the best that we can here to keep you guys kind of plugged into this. So I'm going to go into the actual slides, so transition here to these. So welcome to Uncovering Customer Needs and Wants. And this is the second half of what was introduced in the last module, which is the QL link. So remember last month we talked about question asking to explore, that's the Q. And so we're going to be working on the L now, the listening side of this link, that are very important skills combined together to impact the customer experience by really uncovering more about the customer's needs and wants. So if you look on page 1, you'll see there are a number of quotes that you actually saw rotating as you came in the room today. What I'd like you to do is just take a minute or two and do two things for me. One is pick one of those quotes that you think would be an appropriate motto for us at Brookfield Residential, an appropriate motto. And the second thing would just be, make a note, a brief note of why you selected that motto. Why would it be appropriate, or that quote, why would it be an appropriate motto for us at Brookfield? I'll give you a minute to do that. And Christy and Allie, do you have the Module 5 in front of you?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay, great.
I do.
Okay, perfect.
What page are you on?
On page 1. First page, if you'll just select one of those quotes that's there. And that quote that you're selecting is what you feel would be an appropriate motto for Brookfield. And then just jot a word or two about why you would choose that as our motto.
They're all great quotes.
They are good, that's true.
Pick one, Millie.
That's right.
I can't. I have to love them all the same.
That's the one.
I wonder how many of us are going to have the same one.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, Rick, would you mind moving over with Millie? Would you do me that favor? So we'll just divide there. So we'll have 3 over her here. Rocky, Danny, and the birthday girl. And then we'll have Rick over with Millie.
Finally buy liquor?
I can finally buy liquor.
Where do you want me to sit?
Rick, if you'll come over here with Millie at the table here.
You want to sit on the side so you can see, or?
Yeah, this chair would be great right here, Rick.
Oh, yeah.
You want to move that one over? Yeah, it'd be perfect.
Okay.
And that way, and then they'll see you on the camera.
Okay.
So we'll move you right over here. I'm sorry, it's going to do you right here by Millie. Perfect right there. Yep, yep. And then, so what I'm doing just on the camera, so as we record it, they can see the 2 groups. So here's what I'd like to do. What we've done is we've formed some small groups here. And what I want you to do for about the next 5 minutes is take turns sharing the quote that you selected for our model. So share with the other team the quote that you selected and why. Those couple of words and what your thinking is about why that would be an appropriate model for us at Brookfield. And then we'll all come back together again and see if we have a consensus. Okay, so go ahead and take 5 minutes.
Hey, Brent, I'm sorry, Brent, what?
Real quickly. So Christy, you and Allison, just think amongst yourselves about which one you chose and why, and then we'll ask.
Brent, where is it? I have all of the materials pulled up, but which quotes are they?
Christy, look in the
participant
guide.
Participant
Okay.
material.
And, gets to the point and just.
Guide, unfortunately, it's file.
What about you, Rich?
Want me to bring it up on the screen?
One of the most sincere.
It's page 1, Christy.
Is actually.
So I wrote, or the quote is listening to other people and may reveal the other thing needed to complete your goals.
Because too
So-
often,
No, I'm just looking at, I always look at things,
but are not
but
listening.
customer care, listening to home or sometimes
Like
you
you,
go
I
into
didn't
a
want to have
situation
one
where
that was
they don't
too,
really understand or
too
know what the
broad.
homeowner
or
wants.
too wordy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, but it's more to the point.
True.
Get that
You're looking
goal
for a
or
lot.
plan or that
Exactly.
capture.
Christy and Allie, I'm sharing on the screen those quotes.
So that we listen to our customers.
We're not jumping to a conclusion of what we
Exactly.
think they want. We actually know what they
I
want.
like to.
Or not, sometimes,
Yes.
it's hard, sometimes you go in and you're already thinking, okay, this is how I want to respond to them, or how I want to shut them down, or something like that, and then you get there and you really listen to them, okay, there's something that we need to do here, or you just really listen and solely go to what needs to be done.
Cheryl, which one?
Listening to the market requires your reader and others of yourself. That's that's 2 years to be.
Yes.
Really paying attention to that and doesn't.
Listen or
Here you go,
listening twice as much as you.
I chose the most basic of all human needs is to be understood, or to understand and to be understood. The best way to understand people is to listen.
Something different.
The reason I thought that would be a good model, because it will remind us to seek first to understand and to be understood. Which is actually, that's a Covey quote as well, but it's not on this page. He's got a Covey quote at the top. Do not listen with the intent
About
of
vanilla?
someone walking.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Susan.
I chose
Would you
this
sit
one
over
down
here
here.
next to Rick Millie?
But
That's
Steve,
okay, we're
this is,
recording.
seek
And,
first to
so that way we're
understand
kind
and
of
be
balanced.
understood is
We're just kind of practicing
You know,
those
now
lines.
everybody knows your name.
And then Susie, just so you know, we have Christy and Allison. They're on Skype right now, and I think Robert's going to be joining us in a minute as well. So what we're doing is we're on page 1 of Module 5, and we've all selected one of those quotes that would be an appropriate motto for us at Brookfield, and why we picked that. So we've just been discussing it as a team. So good. So we've had a chance to have a little bit of dialogue, which is great. So what quotes really resonated with your group? Danny, we'll start at your table. What resonated with your group?
I think with just listening to our customer or team member with the intention of understanding that person.
Okay, that was the one quote specifically on intention to understand. Is that right? Was that
Actually, his quote was listening to others'
I
viewpoints.
was just thinking
no,
of the group that what we all shared.
Okay.
Is that what
Got it. Did you come up with one? Did you guys decide on one?
No.
You all had different ones?
We didn't decide on one.
That's okay.
We have three
Sharing
different
why we
ones.
picked
That's
the
what
one that we
resonated.
picked.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of.
Are we supposed to come up with that?
It's all right. It's okay. You guys had discussion. We're going to see if we come to consensus, but that's okay. That's all right. But it's basically with the intent to understand was the key to you listening. with the
That's
intent
why
to
I took
understand.
from all
That's good.
three
Well,
of us.
that was consensus among you. That's right. Okay, thanks for sharing.
So I chose the most basic of all human needs is to understand and be understood. The best way to do it. And the reason I chose that one is it reminds us to seek first to understand.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, that's fine. You guys kind of general consensus, that's fine. Let's hear from this team over here. So this team, was there one that you came to consensus on?
We didn't listen correctly.
That's okay, that's all right, that's all right. And I may not have been clear in the instructions.
We didn't come to a consensus, but looking at the two that, when it was just Millie and I,
Yeah.
looking at the two that we each individually chose, I think there's a common theme there in that when you listen, you'll listen and it will show respect to whom you're listening.
Right.
But then also, it will give you the needed tools to help someone as well.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Good, excellent. Good comments on that. Christy or Allison, did you pick one that you felt was appropriate for our motto?
Yeah, I
I
chose
did.
the
I
Dalai
think-
Lama.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Allie.
Sorry, Christy.
Go ahead.
I chose the Dalai Lama. When you talk, you are only repeating what you already know. But
Yeah.
if you listen, you may learn something new. And I think that's especially important with this module because we're trying to uncover customers' wants and needs. But with both modules, we're looking to listen for intent
Uh-huh.
to try to uncover their want or need. We know the information. We're familiar. If you're in construction, you know what's going on with the build of their house. If you're coming from design, you know the options that they're going to select, or you've already met with the customer and so forth. So it's just really, we have that expertise because we're with the builder, and now we're allowing that homeowner to really enlighten us about themselves and their wants and needs.
Good. Thanks, I appreciate that. Christy, which one did you pick?
I picked the most basic of all human needs is to understand and be understood.
Yeah.
And I selected that one because I think it's, if everybody just remembered and to kind of bring things back to that human connection and really foster those interpersonal relationships and think about that, I just think the entire world would be such a better place. So not only with our customers, but like our team members, all relationships, if you just go back to that human connection and realizing that you're dealing with,
Right.
someone and you really want to truly help them and think about, them as well as yourself. So.
Good. Thank you, Christy. Good insight.
So when we do this activity, we just have to let the team know that the group needs to choose one of their quotes.
Yeah, if we could come to a consensus, that would be fun. But let's try something, okay? Turn to page 2 at the top. Listen up, okay? Here's what I want you to do. Without talking to anyone else on your team, without talking, and without looking at the other person's table, I'd like you to write down the name of each person at the table. And I want you to write which of the quotes they chose and why they chose it. But you can't look at the other papers or talk to someone else. So write down all the people at your table. Write down, Rick, you're going to write down Susie and Millie, and which ones did they pick and why did they choose them? You're going to write it down for each of them. But without looking at their paper, without talking to them.
Verbatim how it is on the.
Yeah, what you remember. Put down what you remember. Okay?
That's a whole different.
Okay, put down what you remember.
Let me hold on to that.
So Christy and Allie, if you'll write down those in the room and what you remember of which ones they picked, of what you heard. Take another 30 seconds. Okay, so how much of what was shared did you remember?
I remembered one keyword.
One keyword. Okay, got one. All right, good, good. Anyone else? How'd you do?
I did well on Danny's because it was a longer conversation,
Okay. All right.
I think.
Good.
Cheryl, did you choose listening as an art? Which one did you choose? Okay, so I
Okay,
remember.
so Rocky got 2.
So I remember. Well, I remember what he chose, but I
Right,
remember
well.
why he said it. He said
Okay.
because listen to the other viewpoint because it may give you insight on the one thing that you might need to know to solve the issue.
Okay. So what was it help you remember what he said?
Well, he prefaced it by saying coming from a customer service perspective.
Oh, okay.
So I was already, because he said that, I put that into, he said, you're talking with a customer, and even though you may feel like you want to push back or you want to do other things, the listener's viewpoint, you may get the key to what it is to solve.
Good. Okay.
That was paraphrased, but I mean,
right.
basically the thought.
Yeah. Good. What about for others of you that remembered? What was it that helped you in your recollection?
Well, I remember her, the quote that she chose, the gist of it. Not the action, not verbatim.
Okay.
But I can't remember why.
Okay. All right.
I remember the quote though.
Chrissy, did you jot down a few that you heard? Did you remember some?
Yeah, I remembered Rocky's and Allie's. And I remember Rick talking about that they didn't select one, but it circles around like respect as well.
Okay.
So.
And what do you think helped you with remembering what they said?
Different stuff. I mean, Rocky repeated his twice during the conversation, and then Allie referenced the Dalai Lama, which jogged my memory.
Okay.
And then, just the respect and
good.
talking about why it's important.
I didn't listen to the instructions well enough because I was only doing our table.
Right.
I would have remembered the Dalai Lama too.
Okay.
Yeah. And what Christy said the same thing I did.
Right. So for those of you that remembered less, what tends to get in your way with not being able to recall?
Coming in late.
Okay, coming in late. All right. Thank you for being honest.
Coming in late,
That's all right.
a little bit.
You're not so sexy today.
I have a meeting, I know.
No worries. Good. What about brothers? What may have gotten in your way of recalling what others said?
I think in my case, I was looking at the others still, like, trying to, there were so many good ones that it was hard to pin down. So I was still trying to up one Rick.
There you go. Okay. Good. What about others? Anything that you found got in your way?
Well, I know what gets in the way, but it not necessarily got in my way. But what gets in the way is you're so focused on what you want to say and preface what you're going to say that takes a disproportionate share of your attention.
Yeah. Okay.
So the other stuff becomes a little fuzzier.
Okay. Thanks, Rocky. Good. Allison, what did you find was getting in the way of you recalling what was said? Allie, you may be on mute.
Hello. Yeah. There was a lot of conversations going on in the room at the same time.
Okay.
And I was trying to listen in, and then I was thinking about my quote. So maybe just kind of trying to multitask, but not being present.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So what can we take away about listening from this exercise?
It takes work.
It takes work. Yeah. What else?
It takes focus and turning off your mind to other thoughts.
Yeah. Takes focus, turning off
It
mind.
takes selflessness.
Selflessness.
Because
Okay.
You're not concentrating on yourself. You need to concentrate and focus in on the person you're speaking.
Focus on that you're speaking with. Thanks, Rick. Good. So listening is an activity that we engage in every day. And it's something that too often we don't bring a lot of consciousness to. And yet when it comes to the customer experience and just relationships in general, it's one of the most powerful skills that we have at our disposal. One of the most powerful skills at our disposal. So that's why we're here today, to bring greater attention and intention to listening so we better uncover and understand the needs and wants of customers and team members. So let's dig into this with one more quote that speaks to us about this very important topic. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. This was said by Epictetus. Susie, Epictetus. And Epictetus is Greek for big ears. Yes. Epictetus is Greek for big ears. Just kidding, that was his name. But Cheryl's going to call him Big Ears. So, you can be one of the best askers on the planet. Remember Einstein from the last one, very inquisitive. However, if you don't really listen to how the other person responds, you're not going to learn anything. So this philosopher I mentioned has mentioned this specifically about our 2 ears and 1 mouth. And, you know, although anatomy is in our favor with 2 ears, as we've discovered, it's not always easy to listen effectively as we might want to with our customers and fellow team members. So take a guess here with what we've got on the slide. Who can tell me the correct answer? The average person hears, on average, how many words every day? 10 to 15, 20 to 30, or 30 to 40,000? What do you think?
20 to 30.
B? You got, this is a smart group. Either that or you looked at the answer.
Smart
But anyway,
also has an
yes.
instructor.
Exactly, good. So B is the correct answer. 20 to 30,000 words every day. For some of us, it even feels like a little bit more. So just the sheer volume of words that we hear is one barrier that makes listening very challenging to us. What are some other barriers that make listening hard? What are some other barriers? I'm going to put them up here on the chart right here behind me. What are some other barriers to listening? Some of them you mentioned earlier, but what are some that come to mind?
When you're super busy.
Super busy. Yep.
Too many people talking.
Too many talking. Okay.
Attempting to multitask.
Multitasking. Yeah. Okay.
Not interested in the subject.
Oh,
Not
not
interested.
Yeah, right.
You know how you can tell when
That's my
someone's,
husband.
you know how you can tell when someone's not interested in your speaking? You know how you can tell?
How's that?
They say, interested.
Uh-huh.
It's
These are
the
not
exact opposite. It's like, I'm done
Not
listening to you.
interesting.
Yeah.
I hope I don't say that.
That's good.
I might say that, I don't know.
Good. What else?
Just having too much on your mind.
What's on your mind?
Maybe you don't like what they're saying.
Okay.
Like, it's, you know, you're not enjoying hearing that.
So it's kind of that uninteresting, a little bit of not interested.
Or if
Good.
it's like a conflict situation, you're already forming your defense.
Oh, right.
or-
Oh, conflict. Yep. Defense. Yep. Good. Okay. Good. So as we've talked about here, some barriers are kind of from the external environment, and then some is more internal to us personally. Like information volume, we talked about the number of words, construction noise and traffic, we talked about other people just talking and different topics that they're talking about. So the trickier barriers are to overcome are those that are internal. Those that are internal. So what are those that we listed here are internal barriers from what we listed? What would be the internal barriers inside of us? Not interested.
Busy, super.
Not interested, yeah, not interested.
Too much on your mind.
Super busy, too much on your mind.
Multitasking.
Too much on mind, yep. Multitasking, yep.
Conflict.
Conflict internal,
Conflict,
yeah.
not enjoying the
Not
subject.
enjoying.
is
They're all
another, yeah.
internal except for the too many.
Exactly.
talking. Yeah.
Good, so lots of internal. One there is kind of external, is more of those too many talking. So absolutely right, yep. So please turn in your module there on page 2 at the bottom. You'll see listening to understand your barriers. That's at the bottom of page 2. So if you would, in addition to these internal barriers that we listed on the board, I'd like you to write down there a couple of those that really tend to be challenging to you. What are your internal barriers that are particularly challenging in your ability to try to listen to others? Write those down there on the bottom of page 2. Another 30 seconds and just wrap up your thoughts on your internal barriers.
Hey, Brent, while we do this, quick question.
Yeah.
On the facilitator guide, I see it says note, mark internal barriers on the chart with the letter I, add others to the chart if needed. Why are you marking it with the letter I?
Oh, because it means internal. So that's an internal barrier versus an external.
But is this on, like, I can't see you right now. Is this on, like, a chart that you're working through?
Yeah, he's got a chart on the wall and he's written down
Okay.
those barriers and put an I next to the ones that were.
Yep.
Were his, but the rest of the folks are doing it on their participant manual.
Yeah, so what we did is we listed barriers that came to mind and then went back and asked and talked about the difference of external and internal. We listed the internal. We had all of them except one.
Oh, I got it.
Was an
Okay.
external.
Okay.
And then what we said is, for everyone individually, kind of what are those internal barriers that are most challenging for ourselves individually? That's what we're writing down there at the bottom of page 2. Can you see, is the video up now?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
probably tough to see, but that's what we did there. So it's really the understanding of external versus internal, and then we're really reflecting on what really gets in my way personally. So thanks for asking that question. And you know what I'm going to do is I'll kind of keep you guys up on the screen so you can see the video. So to really get good at listening, you've got to tackle your listening barriers. And a plan of attack can help. And we've got 5 strategies that we're introducing today that are going to help you with better listening. So I'm putting this up on the screen, but I'm going to keep the video up as well. So these are our 5 strategies. And these strategies, when used in combination with the question-asking approaches that we learned in the prior module, they will help you overcome your barriers to listening, to understand. Really what it takes is some practice and discipline to put them into action. And it starts with one fundamental strategy, and it involves showing humility. So that's strategy number 1, is showing humility. So tell me, what does humility have to do with listening to understand?
I think Rick said it. You have to allow the other, put yourself second and put the individuals first.
Yes, yes, great point. And thanks for recalling what Rick had mentioned there. Yes, yes, putting that other person first. Not jumping to those conclusions and assumptions, but yeah, very good, good. It's no coincidence that the word listen and silent have the same letters. Listen and silent are comprised of the same letters. And those same 6 letters can make quite a difference there, but simply being quiet is not the same as listening. Just being quiet is not the same as listening. And that's where the next strategy comes into play. So strategy number 2 is being present. Presence is about making a concerted effort to push the external and internal barriers away and give our full attention to others. That's being present. Okay? The third strategy is you also need to demonstrate authentic interest. Authentic interest. So based on your experience, how do you know when someone is sincerely interested in what you have to say and not just faking it? Like you gave us an idea earlier.
They don't say
interesting. Right. What else? How do you know?
If you're sitting down, they may lean into you a little.
Lean in a little bit. Body language. Good. Good. What else?
Ask clarifying questions.
Clarifying questions.
Agree or nod.
say, oh,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Right.
facial expressions and body
Good.
language.
Facial with the body language. Good, good. What else?
Notes.
Taking
They
notes.
can repeat
Taking
back
notes
to you.
Christy,
Yeah. They can paraphrase back to you what you said.
paraphrase back. Good, good. Allie, anything that that comes to mind on how you can tell that someone's demonstrating authentic interest?
They're engaged.
Good, engaged, very good, excellent, excellent. So the fourth strategy is read between the lines. So really good listeners are not passive. They pay attention to how other persons are responding, just like what we talked about. So it's not the words, but the tone of voice we talked about, the facial expressions, gestures, and they don't leave it at that. They check to confirm. So that's our fifth strategy, is check to confirm. So you really have not listened until you apply this final strategy, and that's confirming your understanding, which lets you check to see if you were understood and what the customer or team member intended. You kind of touched on that. So those are the 5 strategies that you have there. Please turn to page 3 in your manual. And on page 3, you'll see listening to understand strategies. These are the strategies that we just laid out there. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes, and if you will, read the brief description of each of the strategies And then for yourself personally, check the 3 or 4 of all of the 15 listed there. Select 3 or 4 specific behaviors that you believe will help you overcome the personal barriers that you listed earlier. Your personal barriers for listening. Think of the 3 or 4 that will most help you for overcoming your personal barriers. I'll give you 3 minutes to do that.
Having fun.
There's a lot of fun going on next door. Rowdier than we are.
While we're thinking, Brent, do you think we should have the question asking 4 steps written out just in case, because we reference it, but I mean, are they going to reference?
Oh, from the Q link, from the
Yeah.
Q link to Q?
Right.
It's coming up.
Oh, okay.
Yep, exactly. Good idea. It is coming up. And maybe we do want to put it on a chart, but it is coming up. Good idea. Yep. Okay, looks like we've got those wrapped up. So what behaviors did you select, and how do you think they'll help you with overcoming your barriers?
I put so first I just asked, so when we're asking them to do this, if they're out of this whole page, they're only going to select 3 or 4 that apply to them.
Roughly.
Okay.
That will help you in overcoming your barriers. Correct.
So I put confirm important details and reflect back the emotions shared or suggested.
Okay. Good, Susie. And why do you think those will help you with your personal barriers?
Because I think sometimes like I'm just in a hurry, and so because I'm in a hurry, maybe I'm missing something that's important to the person talking to me,
Okay.
so that if I confirm back, they
Yeah.
know I've heard them, and I also am
Right.
repeating it back to myself so I don't
Yes.
miss it.
Yes. Yeah, good. Good. Okay.
And I also would identify what's not being said,
Okay.
because that can get tricky too. If someone,
Yeah.
they're trying to say something, and if I'm trying to confirm the important details and I'm still not getting it, then I just need to be sure I'm getting what's maybe hard for the other person to tell me. maybe.
Okay. Right. Good. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Others, what did you check off?
I picked remove sources of distraction and take notes.
Apparently I have a hard time being present.
Okay. Well, good self-reflection. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for sharing that. Allison, what did you check off on your list?
Selected read between the lines and confirm understanding.
Okay. And how do you see those helping you?
I mean, I'm not one to try to read between the lines, but I think I'm taking that more just being very engaged and present and hearing what they're saying and picking out cues where I can and then confirming it back with the customer or team member.
Okay, good. Good insight. Great.
So Brent,
Yes.
I checked individual boxes. I mean, of course, under each one.
Yes,
But
yes.
under confirming understanding, I checked all those boxes because it's just so critical to resolving the issue.
Yeah.
And they won't feel felt until you've confirmed.
Yeah.
Receiving back the emotions that they've shared or oh gosh, that must have made you feel disrespected or unappreciated or this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But personally, taking notes, I try to commit too much to memory when I'm having a discussion with somebody. I very rarely will write things down when
Okay.
we're having a discussion. So
Right.
I think that would, for me personally, would be a,
Okay, good, Rocky, thanks. And thanks for highlighting that fifth strategy too, because that's so important from that understanding. As we talked about, that's the one that really brings it together, your point.
yeah, otherwise they don't know that you were listening
Exactly.
until you confirm it all.
And you don't know, to your point, if you got it right and really understood what they were saying, great point.
And they have to feel understood before they let you help.
Yes, yes, great point. Yep. So effective listening is a very powerful skill, as we can see, and it's made up of countless intentional behaviors. That's the important part. They all come together to help others feel heard, respected, and valued. Rocky talked on that. So in the process, listening, and this is very important, builds trust, relationships, and really unbeatable customer experience with our customers and with our internal team members. So let's kind of see how this plays out. We're going to learn a little more about these strategies by dissecting a conversation with a customer. We're going to do that right now. So I'm going to hand out a script. So Christy and Allie, we're going to take a look at breaking free, but you'll be able to hear us as we read through the script. So if you don't have it there in hand, that's fine, but we are handing this out in class. So would someone like to play the role of Edward? Need someone to play the role of Edward.
I'll be it, okay.
Okay. So this is a conversation between Edward, he's a potential home buyer, and Anna, and I'm going to play the role of Anna, the sales representative. And Rick, you're going to be Edward?
No, go ahead.
Okay, Rick's going to be Edward for us. So Anna's going to demonstrate the strategies for listening to understand to continue to develop a relationship with Edward so that he's willing to share more about his needs and wants. So she's going to apply this strategy. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to read the script aloud as a group, and then we'll discuss how Anna used the strategies for listening to understand. So again, I'm going to read the role of Anna, and we'll get started here. So the background is that Edward had stopped by the sales office a few days ago, and Anna had the opportunity to speak with him briefly. Edward was in a hurry because he was on the way to drop off his 9-year-old son, Brian, for a soccer game. Now, Brian wasn't too interested in the conversation between Anna and his father and complained that his coach benched anyone who was late. So Anna did learn that Edward was a first-time home buyer. He's eager to purchase a first home in a safe community with good schools. Brian, though, his son, shared not too happily that he has a younger sister, Maya, who is 6. Edward shared that he was interested in a 3- or 4-bedroom home and had stopped by just to take a quick look at the model exteriors and take some floor plans home to look at with his wife. Anna gave him what he asked for, and Edward promised to be back. But Anna wasn't really sure if Edward would make it back. So here's the scene. It's the front entrance of the sales office. Anna is happy to see Edward alone this time. And she sees him through the front window. She closes her laptop, walks toward the door, and greets Edward as he comes in. Hi, Edward. It's nice to see you again.
Thanks. And you remembered my name. Impressive. Given I practically flew in and out here last time.
Well, I hope you made it to the game on time. It sounds like Brian has a tough coach.
You're not kidding, but we made it with time to spare.
Well, that's good. And where's Brian today?
My wife is teaching summer school, so my mom is pitching in with both kids today. It's tough to keep those two occupied when school is out.
I bet it is. You've got your hands full, certainly, but what brings you back in today?
Well, my wife Emma and I went over the plans together, and it looks like the 4-bedroom is the best choice for us. If we buy here, that is. Residence 2, I guess it is. I told her I'd look at the model, kind of scope it out beforehand so she doesn't have to take too much time away from work. She's so busy right now. Can we take a look?
Oh, of course. I'd be happy to show you. Edward, if it's okay with you, I'd appreciate asking just a few questions. I know you're busy, but by asking a few questions, it'll help me make sure you end up in the best possible home for you and your family. Is that okay?
I guess so. Like what?
Well, I'm curious. You said that you and Emma looked over the plans. What in particular did you like about Residence 2?
Price point works for us, and it's got that extra room we really want.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like it works within your budget, and by extra room, are you referring to that 4th bedroom?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it seems like you've got a plan in mind for the extra space.
Well, let's say it's a work in progress.
Well, that's intriguing. So if you don't mind me asking, why is having an extra room important to you?
I'm a physical therapist. I work full-time for a practice now, but I really want to break free and have a practice of my own.
Oh, that's exciting. And something that I don't know that much about, but it seems like eventually you'd have more flexibility. Is that right?
Exactly.
Well, I'd love to hear more about it. Maybe while we're walking over to the model. Are you ready to walk over?
Yeah, let's go.
So, Edward, would you tell me a little more about this business venture of yours?
Well, I have to keep my full-time job and start small.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So you want a space where you can see patients as you start out. Is that right?
You got it.
What would the ideal space be like?
Well, it needs to be big enough for a few pieces of equipment, but it's more like I'll know it when I see it.
Well, we're heading in a good direction for that. I bet you'll like what you see. Thank you, Rick. Great job on that. Appreciate that. So with the script there, take a moment just to kind of scan through it, and I'd like you to underline 3 examples that show Anna's strength using the 5 strategies as a listener, and then we're going to compare our notes of the group. So I'm keeping up on the PowerPoint slide, the 5 strategies, but underline 3 of those strategy examples. I'll give you 2 minutes to do that. Take about another minute on that. So what examples of Anna's listening strengths did you underline?
Almost everything.
Almost everything. Okay, good.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really looking at this
Yeah.
as a sales professional from my perspective.
Uh-huh.
I'd hire Anna in a hot second.
Great. Okay. Good. Good.
Anna, you're hired.
Well, all right.
Hired, Anna.
Good. Good. Well, point out 1 or 2, right?
Okay,
that really stood
so
out.
she remembered Edward's name when she came back.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, she's got a human connection. And he was actually a little bit surprised at that brief interaction that they had
Mhm.
with not a lot of conversation going on, that she remembered that.
Right.
Then asked about his son, and he sounds like he has a tough coach. It's like, you know what that person is feeling right now? I must be the most important person in the world.
Oh, right. Yes.
This person who sees 100 people a week remembers me and remembers my son's name
Right.
and knows that he had to get to a soccer game.
Terrific. Absolutely. Which of those strategies might that suggest?
Authentic, well, I mean, as I go through, she demonstrates every single one of them. You want to tie it.
Specifically remembering some details about him on that human connection. Which one might that be?
She was definitely present.
Mm-hmm.
She demonstrated authentic interest.
Yep.
No, I don't know that I underlined anything on reading between the lines. Maybe somebody else did. She did definitely confirm understanding.
Good.
She was
Great. Great. And remembering the name and some
Yeah.
facts about him, definitely showing that interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Billy, did you have a comment? Sorry.
No, I didn't, but
Okay.
I'll add,
Okay.
reading between the lines,
Uh-huh.
I think when he looked at his watch and then she kind of.
Oh, right.
She was in a hurry.
Got it.
Let's go, let's pop a
Good.
walk.
Yeah.
Good example.
Yeah, maybe it was
Good
hurry.
example.
Good. Christy, did you, what did you underline or what did you pick up as a strategy or two that Anna used?
I thought there were a bunch as well, but like I really like when she said, that's intriguing. If you don't mind me asking, why is having an extra room important to you?
Uh-huh.
I think that's being
Yep.
curious and, really being of service. That's engaging. There's a lot of things, but.
Good, absolutely. And what did you notice here on the next slide here? Remember from the question asking strategies from the last module? What did you notice about her question asking strategies? Did any of these from our last module kind of
Follow up or clarifying questions?
Yes, follow up and clarifying. Good. Rocky, any others?
She kept her questions open.
She did. Open questions. Good, Allie. Yep, very good. Excellent. So now let's learn from Anna's skills and take a little step back to think about the impact of her question asking and listening skills. What need did Anna uncover? What was the need that Edward had?
The fourth bedroom.
Fourth bedroom, good, exactly. And what was the want? The want that became clear in the conversation with Edward. What was his want?
He wants to go into business himself.
Good, business for himself, absolutely. And with that, with business, what did he need to kind of go into business that he expressed?
He needed room for some
Extra space.
few pieces of equipment
Pieces of equipment, right?
and
Yep,
and of course the extra.
exactly, that extra room. And he talked a little bit about having more independence and kind of flexibility in his life. So that was really kind of that unexpressed want. Very good, right? Thank you. What's the biggest difference then between Edward's need and his want? What's the biggest differences in needs to wants for Edward?
Money, right?
Yep.
Budget.
So the need is, right, a little more fact-based, isn't it? And what's the difference on the want side then? What
One is a future promise.
future promise?
And a vision that he has of going off on his own.
Yes. You hear what Rocky said, future promise and vision, so it's more emotional, isn't it? Yes, more
He
emotional.
really only needs the 2 bedrooms for the 2 kids.
Uh-huh.
The 3-bedroom house
Right.
and 2 bedrooms for the 2 kids.
Exactly. Yeah, but there's definitely an emotional part of that, for the independence, that freedom, having the extra room. Yes, good. And why are Edward's emotions so important?
Because 85% of a home purchase is based on emotions. But
Yes.
I don't know what answer you're looking for, but I know that for a fact.
Customer service is what we do.
It's how the
Customer experience is how they
feel about it.
Right, exactly. So those feelings really form the experience. So when they're thinking experience, they're going to, because 80%, as Rocky said, it's about that emotion, right? Really the want. Yep, so that's where it's coming in. Yep, very good. So remember, and this is what we just talked about, so on the next slide, as I just mentioned, that customer service is what we do. The customer experience is how the customer feels. And Rocky talked about that 80% that's so important. And the same applies to our internal relations with our team members. Same applies with team members, our family and friends outside of work. It's very important. So let's go back to the QL link here. I'm bringing that slide up. What I'd like to do now is give you a chance to put what you've learned from the last module, that's the Q side, together with the listening side, the listening to understand side. We're going to put that into practice with either a customer or a team member. But in this module, we're going to put a little twist on it, okay, a little bit of a twist. So you're actually going to take the role of a customer or a team member. That's the role you're going to take. So this is going to give you an opportunity to think about standing in the other person's shoes, you as the customer or team member. You're going to discover what you know and what you'd like to learn more about in terms of their needs and wants, just by actually being in the role of the customer or team member. This is also going to help you enhance your approach with this person by seeing how someone else might address the situation, okay? So this is a little alternate universe from what we're used to, right? Because we're typically in that role. So we're going to switch it a little bit here, okay? So I want you to turn to page 4, be your own customer. So on page 4, let's first focus on the top part, because there's a lot here on this page. But let's focus on the first part. What we're going to do is I'm going to have you first take a moment to identify a customer or team member whose role you would like to step into. So you're going to think about a customer or team member, and you're going to step into their role. And although there's some space provided, you don't need to use names. We'll still keep it confidential here, so the other person can remain anonymous. But I want you to select a situation that you'll feel comfortable exploring with another person I'm going to pair you up with in the room. And you'll get to choose your partner for this activity. So for our purposes, choose a relationship that's only mildly challenging or confusing. Let's not make it, the toughest scenario that you have with a customer or with a team member. Not the toughest one, because we want to be able to kind of play through this a little bit. For example, I might be tempted to choose a coworker where I've got long-standing issues. Let's avoid those, because they'll just be too difficult to get into it. We're just looking to practice skills here. So what I'd like you to do instead is really just think of a relationship where, maybe I'm confused or have a little tough time about the relationship and understanding the other person's point of view. I'm having a tough time understanding the customer's point of view or a team member's point of view. So what I want you first to do is to select the situation, again, either customer or team member focused, and I want you there just on the top of page 4 on the top, just to record a brief summary of the key things that you already know about this person's needs and wants. So just on the top part of this page, record whether it's a customer or team member, and that's just, don't need to write names, just write it down. Write a little summary of the situation. What's going on where you'd like to really understand a little bit more about what's going on with that customer or that team member. And then write down what you believe are really kind of their basic needs, and then what are potentially some wants, just beyond the essentials of what the customer or team member really desires or hopes for. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Just do that first part up there of the background. Any questions about this? Okay, I'll give you 3 minutes. Yes.
Okay, the summary of the situation explains what the issue is.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And then what their needs are and what their wants are.
The customer or team member needs and wants, yes.
Okay.
And you are going to take on that role.
Got it.
But you'll be sharing this with the person that you're paired up with.
Is it an issue we're having with them or they're having with us?
It's an issue where you can't quite understand where they're coming from. There's a certain scenario you'd like to learn a little bit more through some question asking and listening skills to understand a little bit more of where they're coming from. You don't quite understand fully their needs and wants.
So we're kind of guessing what their needs and wants are?
Good. You may know a little bit, or you have a hunch at it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so this is where I just want to make sure, because I want to make sure that I'm.
Yep.
It says baseline requirements or requests customers expect will be satisfied.
Yeah.
So if it's their needs, it's what I owe them, because it's saying customers, what their expectation is to be satisfied, or is it my satisfaction?
It's there from the customer perspective. What do they need or want of you, what they're looking for. It's their needs, their wants. So you're trying to get a little better.
What they need from me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then potentially what you think their wants are as well. And so you're actually going to then kind of explain this, and you're going to play the role of that person, and the other person is going to ask questions and listen to you, where you're playing that role of the customer team member. but you have to share with the person kind of the scenario and what you kind of think the needs and the wants are from that customer perspective that you're going to be playing.
A little, I'm just gonna, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
I'm the only one that's a little
That's okay.
confusing.
That's okay. I know. That's why I wanted to go through this, walk through it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're playing the role of
That's right.
the
Yes.
customer team member.
Correct. That's where it's a little different from where we've been. So if you and Susie are paired up, Rick, you're going to be the customer because you kind of know the scenario where you need to have a little more insight.
Right.
But you're going to actually play that customer.
Right.
Susie's going to question and listen.
Susie's gonna basically play my part.
Basically you
Yes.
asking you as the customer. Yes. But you're going to get some insight on how she asks questions, get a little more insight maybe what the customer's thinking. A little different from what we typically do. Little twist. Yeah, so I said it's a little alternate universe. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we're at 3 minutes. So let's pause there for a minute. So here's the way this works. I'm going to put up a slide here. The way this is going to work, let me make this a little bit larger so we can all see it. Yep, that is a little small. So here's what we want to do. We're going to practice in pairs. So ultimately you're going to engage in 2 confidential conversations and you're going to switch roles. So each of you has a chance to practice the questioning and listening strategies and to take on the role of the customer or team member. So here's basically the way the conversation would work as you'd see it. So we want to just start off, who's going to be the customer or team member? And it's the person whose birthday is earlier in the year. That's who's going to start. The person whose birthday is earlier in the year is going to start.
April, what's yours?
Right, okay, there you go. So we've decided that. And then next, the customer or the team member, the person that's taking that role, is going to give a brief description from what you wrote down at the top. Kind of who I am, I'm a customer. Here's kind of the basic scenario. And then here's basically kind of the needs and wants of this customer. So again, you're trying to learn a little more and get a little better point of view of the individual. So the person practicing is going to use our strategies to uncover the needs and wants. So if Rocky's the customer and we start, Danny's going to use questioning and listening once he understands the scenario to ask the customer about the scenario and learn a little more about needs and wants. Don't try to come up with a solution. Just practice the skills. That's what we're working on. Okay. So it's a little bit different because Rocky is playing the customer that he'll be talking to, but now Danny's going to use the skills with Rocky. So that's what will happen.
So in this case, I'm a team member.
Okay.
I'm going to put myself in the team membership.
And Rocky's going to respond like a team member, and you're just going to kind of ask some questions to understand a little bit more based on the scenario you've been given. So when the time is called, the person that's practicing, so in this case it's Danny, is going to confirm the understanding, right? So remember, that's the 5th strategy. You got to confirm that understanding. Did I really get what was going on here? Rocky will give some feedback. And then after we do that, we'll do at the bottom of page 4 kind of the insights and observations depending on your role. You'll take some notes down there on those. So notice that during this practice session at the middle of page 4, we have the strategies. Millie asked about that earlier. So here's some starter questions. You know, Danny might start out, well, how can I help you, team member? Or, you know, what's your scenario or outcome? And then he can ask questions using what we learned in the last module, and of course the listening strategies that we learned today. So that's the way the dialogue is going to go. So let's just start. What we're going to do first is take just a couple of minutes, to just share the scenario, and then once you've done that, then go ahead. You can go ahead and start your practice. We'll do that part first, and then I'll give you the timing, okay, on this. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do the practice part, and then I'll give you the announcement so we can switch. But before we switch, we'll have you just do the little debrief at the bottom, and then we'll do the switch on that. So we'll give you that minute at the end just to take your notes and do the reflection at the bottom of page 4. Okay? Questions about this exercise?
Sounds like a lot of
It's
instructions.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
A lot there. That's why I wanted to go through it.
On a group of 25, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go
We
through
gotta
it.
streamline this
Exactly. Yep.
stuff now.
There's only
Yep.
6 of us.
Bullet point.
Yep. Exactly. Yes.
Step 1.
Yes. So they tried to kind of do it on the slide, but there's a lot here. This is really meaty and just changing roles.
So instead of being in pairs, can I roll through this really quick?
Sure.
Really quick? So,
Yeah, we can do that.
I picked sales.
Okay. Okay.
Because at first I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
where I got confused was, we're talking about who our customer is
Yes.
or our team member.
Yes.
So in my case, I'm saying sales, because they're my main.
mhm.
Now you have to jump into sales.
So am I the
Yes.
sales or
You're
is
the, no,
Cheryl
you're sales. You're
No.
sales.
So
You're the
I'm
salesperson.
I'm you.
Yes.
You're the,
Oh, I'm
you're the
the
person you're
person
having
that-
a conflict
Yes.
with.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So you tell me a little bit about it, and then you get into the sales.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're going to play that salesperson where Susie wants to know more about the point of view where they're coming from. but you're actually going to be the salesperson, and Cheryl's going to work like
She's
he
gonna
was,
ask my
like she
question.
was Susie, questioning and
Yeah.
listening.
Okay.
Correct.
It's role reversal.
It is a role
Role
reversal.
reversal.
It is a role
Okay,
reversal.
and like if you're a team
Yep.
member, I'm going, and you have to give me the background, and I'm gonna ask you the questions.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm gonna become.
So let's give it a try. See how it goes, just in concept, if it works. So go ahead and introduce your scenario first. You know.
That's me.
Okay, so I'm sales,
Detail.
and what I'm saying is that some of the situations.
Natalie and Christy will just kind of have you listen in as they do the discussion. You can kind of think it through how you can do this.
Processes.
And their needs are,
Things.
an issue report, their want would be a wire
And
furnace
I
instead of
really
a
want
professional.
to run a tight
So,
ship, and I don't
and like right now,
want
the perfect
anything
example is lab two.
that, or I don't want any shrinkage, or I don't want anything to go away.
I need it right now.
So, although
Okay.
I may be creating some extra burdens on other people, while I'm trying to do these things. But I need to implement very restrictive policies that are very accurate and can run a tight ship. And what I would really want is to completely control the process without questions from anybody else.
Yes.
That's, so, yeah, that's the situation. So, I guess the instruction now.
Where I think it's gonna get hard, is if somebody says,
Ask me
like, if your
what it is
customer
about
is
my
purchasing.
mission that requires me to do all
Ask,
this.
because I don't know purchasing. Like, I want to know to say,
Task, are
what
you?
to frame the question, like, I can say, how can I help you?
Well, I just feel more comfortable if I dot all my i's and cross all my t's, because I'm very.
Just be a task,
Maybe it would be
that was your portion of it.
Buyers that, you know, maybe
I do have a team,
playing on the role.
but I want to perform props that you need.
And I would know, like, what am I gonna do with this, and then if I were you, understand the position
Now, you don't want to be questioned on it, is that you don't want to be questioned by your man?
Does each bedroom have to have it
Questioned
by other departments? Because I know that I can do a good job, and I can run a tight ship. And I don't really want a lot of other.
What area are you looking at?
Asking me why I need to.
Have this
Preferably
No.
closer to,
Other departments are going to be burdened by more work. I don't think that they should be able to control part of the process, or as part of the decision-making portion of it, or?
Well, I don't know that I trust them.
Would you prefer a single story?
Interesting.
Contact the DRE, yeah. I know, it's just hard because I don't know, well, what's yours?
It sounds like you really, this is real important to you, that you really want it to work the way you want it to run.
I do, yeah, I do, and, you know, I don't want people to think unreasonable. But I wanna make sure that we don't have anything, I don't want at the end of the year, find out that it's $250.
Take 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes of the
Before we
practice.
switch, or?
No, before you actually clarify the understanding. So just 2 more of the practice on the questioning and listening. Just kind of working through the scenario.
Are there any amenities that are required, like
Continuing questions.
swimming pool?
John and listening and kind of applying the first 4 strategies.
TV, satellite? Or
And then we'll give you a minute, Annie, to clarify your understanding.
Oh my gosh. I guess maybe I would just, I understand.
So,
I hear what you're saying.
what can I do to help you out in either negotiating this, or
Other options.
if there's any,
Basically, I would think of the dad part.
anywhere where we can negotiate a portion of this?
If you have 3 cars, I mean, because there's no other place they can take that car.
Take 1 more
It
minute.
might be if I could clearly understand.
1 more minute.
What the need for
1 more minute.
negotiation would be.
So,
Maybe if I understood how it impacts
month and a half,
other
perhaps.
departments and the extra work involved that they need to do to make me comfortable that all my Ts are crossed.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I might be
Looking at
more
this, showing humility.
We probably
Think
need
for
to
that
sit
way.
down
That one's
and
just hard
It's,
to
figure out.
I think I
how
have
much
what you're looking
more
for.
work.
So I just
Well,
want
I
to
was
confirm
you
that.
just moving in.
So
Me,
we're
Chris,
looking for
I
a
would just say,
five-bedroom,
if we're thinking about
six-bathroom home.
I would be open
In
to
the Delray area.
Let's talk about what.
We'd like to be with you.
Step in the right direction.
5 miles.
Let's talk about what the
Resident home
situation
and
is. So when your daughter is in the parking spot.
Story or or second, 2 stories, it really doesn't matter. It needs to accommodate a pet. You're gonna be in the home with 2 to 3.
Okay, so stop your practice.
3 vehicles.
Now, the person practicing, confirm your understanding. That 5th strategy, confirm your understanding. Take 1 minute to confirm your understanding. So confirm your understanding, the one practice.
You're
Not the
screwed.
customer, one practice.
You're
Confirm your
screwed.
understanding. So use that 5th strategy. Take 1 minute to do that. So just confirm what your understanding is.
I'm making everything
Needs
I'm
and
working on
wants.
hand.
Oh, you did, good, okay, great. So then what you guys can do is work on your feedback part. Just kind of take your notes,
Take those
give
reservations.
feedback on how it went.
Get those appointments.
Whichever your
set. I'm
scenario
getting that for
was,
you.
answer your questions.
Get that for you.
You got that right.
I'm getting it for you.
Now, I guess,
Take them out of the market.
if
Aside from driving
I'm
to
to
LA
step
and
out of
helping them
that
at the area.
person's shoes,
Okay, so.
So I would say, I absolutely understand,
you know,
where
kind
you're
of.
coming from, and I'm
Got
sure
it.
it's
So that's,
frustrating.
so her feedback to
We are
me,
working on
Yes.
and then I would write that in.
Yes.
Regulations,
Yes.
parking, there being
But,
more codes.
certainly having them
Good.
having them
Yep.
understand the
And what's already
extra
in writing,
burdens.
like they already when they go in.
So take 2 minutes to kind of write insights and observations based on your particular role, and then the person who played the customer team member give feedback to the person that was practicing.
They always
So
go.
I'm the customer or team member, right?
Uh-huh.
And Rocky would be the person practicing.
Yeah. So Danny, you're going to answer, because you were practicing, asking the questions. Which strategies or strengths are your strengths you feel from that exercise? What particularly was strong for you, and which strategy would you like to improve? And then Rocky's going to give you feedback based on what he felt were your strengths, and then a strategy that he would suggest you improve on. So it's a personal reflection as well as feedback.
That within 5 miles, so helping me better allocate where I want to be.
So record here in the bottom based on your role. It's either going to be self-reflection if you were practicing. Cheryl, you were doing the Q&A, the question and answer?
We did both, we went back and forth.
Oh, you did a little bit, yeah, okay, you guys went fast. Well, then take your first roll. You guys are good. You guys are quick.
Okay, so what's your issue?
So take the first roll, Cheryl, if you were practicing the question. So it's self-reflection. What did you do well? What could you do better? And then Susie, you were the customer in the first role, or team member. So you step into you answer these questions, reflecting on how did Cheryl do with the Q&L, the question answer, and listening, and just write. So you're going to give her feedback on what strategies applied well, and with some examples, and then which ones might she focus on.
Which strategies were you first? Definitely positioning your question and follow up.
Good. Perfect. Yep. Very good. So if you've had a chance to give that feedback, if not, take a minute, because then what we want to do is switch roles. Okay, so we're going to switch and we'll give you another 8 minutes. So in this case, Danny's going to be the customer team member. Rocky's going to practice questioning and listening. So whenever you're ready, when you finish that feedback, but wrap it up fairly soon, because we're going to now...
Feedback, are we going?
Did you already kind of give... So Rocky gave you feedback. Here's what I felt, good strategies you had. For areas of opportunity.
Okay, so you asked questions to clarify what was good. And then you restated the situation. You restated your understanding of the situation. So I didn't write down anything that you should improve on. Kind of hard to...
And then so for you, Danny, it's kind of self-reflection. What do I think I did well, and maybe what I... And then Rocky's giving you feedback from his perspective.
First one for the sales one.
I think I did well follow-up questions. I think I need to work on like reading between the lines and
Okay.
draw out more of.
Yeah, reading between the lines is a little bit tough when you're.
Okay, you ready to
When I'm
switch
putting
roles?
myself in an.
Okay, let's switch roles.
It's not my real
Maybe 8
situation.
minutes.
I'm on your side.
So let's switch roles, start with sharing the scenario, and then go ahead and get started. And I gotta have about 5 minutes
So
for
my
practice.
scenario
Okay, so
is something that Rick
this
and I dealt with
is,
this morning.
Get the report.
and
General contractor
bills
that built his
purchased
fridge from Home Depot and installing them, so
refrigerator
it,
option
we
for
believe
built-in
the
refrigerator.
refrigerator cabinet should be different, but we.
He installed the refrigerator,
Manual
it's
and-
not fitting, flushing into the
Right.
cabinet, so he fills out. Looking at the
So what we asked him to do is the.
basic specifications,
Install, to
he
install.
doesn't feel that the opening is.
Take a look at it, have the right there to.
I'm not looking at, I'm just writing down what.
If the installation goes well, if there's a problem, then we take care of it, and take care of it.
Yeah, okay, you are now the guy, you're now the customer, and your needs are.
Should I tell her what the customer's expectations are?
This is the
He thinks we need to
Okay, so
Yes.
basically.
And what are his
his
wants?
refrigerator set?
Wants
His wants are that he wants us to modify,
For us to,
which he wants us to,
fix the cabinet, so.
he wants us to force the cabinet company to modify.
Here I am trying to solve the problem. It's not what I'm trying to do.
So,
Well,
so I should just go.
yeah, okay, so, Mr.
So go ahead and start your practice. Yep, no questions, questioning and listening.
How can I vary?
Well.
So I have to be the hard hitter.
Refrigerator opening.
No, I'm the hard hitter.
Okay, you're the hard hitter, okay.
You're me, I'm him.
Okay,
Or-
okay, that's right.
Uh,
Okay, so,
25 and a half inches, and it's only 24 inches. So I need you to
you're
fix
gonna
the
get your
cabinet.
home and see what, the space and the refrigerator where it sits, so, I'd
Sure.
like to see it if I
When
can.
you told our designer
As I told you.
that you needed a certain size
At the refrigerator.
you already worked with the refrigerator, or did you just say, I'm getting a built-in refrigerator and then
I
you
tried
tried
everything, and the
I think that
refrigerator won't
the
be
size that you use?
Yeah, I really, we went that.
So I sent her an email.
That's okay.
I don't think we did it right.
Measurement.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're within the time. Yeah, it'll take probably.
Well,
I just want what I paid for. I
the
paid for it.
information
It's
to
probably
the
half,
designer.
not this your standard.
They gave her the information as how deep that refrigerator was, they said 25 and 3/8.
So,
Yeah.
do you practice?
What would it look like for
And
your
all I have is
expectations?
24 inches.
Maybe we just had like really easy,
So,
like our
like
scenario.
yeah.
Really
Both
easy.
of ours are kind of out of our hands.
Both of us, I mean,
Ours had
maybe
no
we just-
control.
We had no control.
Yeah.
So I was like, I see how that frustrates you. I can get how, I mean, really you had to rely on the
Did
empathizing
you,
and
did
Well,
like
I
that
know
was
it's
well
a-
heard, but it wasn't all the
Yeah.
problem. There wasn't a lot of questioning, like it was straight, like she had like herself
Okay.
wanting their way forward.
How was the-
Oh, right, okay.
It's like, well, I'm not, there's not a lot of questions I can ask you.
Right,
The problem's
right.
pretty clear. All I can do is really, I can see how it's frustrating. And
You did like authentic interest,
Right.
confirming understanding.
I can guarantee you that I'm working on this.
Is
and
the
that
brand
I'm
of the
going
built-in
to
refrigerator
have it. Maybe we can start taking some, maybe you can set up those appointments now, because you know I'm gonna get
Well,
it.
I
And
would
beyond
like
that, it wasn't a lot
for
of
you to
Right.
modify
questions other than,
my
I really,
if you feel-
confirm
do you really
that
want that
standard
report?
How badly do you want that? Are those tears right here? Are you sobbing?
When the cabinet company came out, they told me it was.
You're reading between the lines.
Actually, it's me sobbing. I know when
She's
she's sobbing.
sobbing.
from the inside.
I think that's the biggest challenge for the group, is what scenario you come up with.
You come up with something
You're
very
such a-
specific.
It goes too fast, you
It's
guys
gonna go through really fast, because it really you just get to the making of the work. The public pretty straightforward.
That's why I want to kind of walk through and see how you guys felt about it. It seems quite a bit to set it up. You know, I mean, the first part kind of flows pretty quickly, and we'll talk about a few points if not, where we don't get caught up. When we get through that first part, this is one that takes a lot of setup, obviously, there's a lot of, I think, you know, looking at the page, there's a lot of instructions, so that, so
24, but.
just think about this approach and, you know,
No,
potentially
because
talk
I
to
ordered
Julie
it and
about
I told
some
my
options,
designer
but that's where I want to hear.
what the size of the refrigerator is.
So we're learning
It was
from
gonna fit.
Well, I'll tell you what,
So,
Summary of the.
absolutely confirm
currently
If
know.
you're using the same model that we use in our other homes, it should be able to fit, be able to install. And if it doesn't, then we would.
And it's less about uncovering the need. We're not trying to get to the solution, we're
Well,
practicing.
That's a tough one.
of it.
You threw me on that one. But that's, again, we're not trying to solve
Yeah.
a situation.
Don't
We're
know
trying to-
exactly what they want, but you at least
What
want
do
to
you-
know
what do you
generally
hope
needs and wants to give enough to go.
That it'll fit or that we extend the
And
gap.
that's where there's a little bit of magic to get out of the right
Even
challenge.
if,
Because I'm a general contractor, and I know how to install a bridge, so you asked me to bring a Home Depot installer, what is he gonna do that I've already
Hard time
have
figuring
done?
out who their team member or customer
well,
should.
I see your
Part of it too, you gotta
I'm
have.
wondering if I should.
and,
We should
we
like
will
make
definitely
an
look
example.
into
Well, that's part too, right? And see if it really has a couple of examples.
whether or
Kind
not
of spells it out.
is
For
a.
people that really don't get it, we can give that to them and they practice.
We wouldn't want to do
See,
anything
it's
that.
not about coming to solutions, practice, skills.
As I'm
And
sure
gotta
you
do
would.
the, kind of the right dynamic of the issue. So you don't get
I've
to
waited
kind of solution to it. You just-
Yeah, we got to our
Right.
solution.
That's okay, but that's part of why we're trying to get.
Or just like parking that the parking said, and
Yeah.
we have to change that.
Okay,
Details of the capital.
that's where there's, a little bit of magic in choosing the right.
What is your main
Yeah,
concern?
but it's part of the learning, so, good.
The refrigerator.
Take about 1 more minute in practice, 1 more minute in practice.
So you're telling me.
Well, he already has it
Force
installed.
my cabinet, has a
Yeah,
company
but-
to modify the
He did it himself, so
opening
it's
if
not,
it need be.
it's professional install. We feel that we
Comes
will
back
professional
after
installer.
reviewing it with them, and that's the best course of action. Then-
Okay, so let's bring that to a close and use the 5th strategy to confirm your understanding. Go ahead and do that. Take 1 minute to confirm your understanding of kind of the scenario and the needs and wants. Go ahead and do that. Take 1 minute to confirm.
So if I'm reading between the lines, I'm thinking that he was so sure that providing the measurements and him being a contractor, there's a pride and an ego involved in there because a refrigerator doesn't look right.
Nice doing business with you.
Good,
Must have
good.
done something.
You guys can now give feedback. So
Not
at the
that-
bottom there, just kind of reflect those for yourself personally and then.
You know, right?
So,
So,
You think you're special.
in the case of, critical space board,
so then you.
Jack, you're so worried about your daughter parking. You park far away. Let her have her
Well,
spot.
with the installation, they were
Yeah,
put out.
from your perspective, yeah, there's these-
And
these
so
are
let's
the-
just get on the fight.
And then Rick will just get rid of the
We want the
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to do this.
Strengths, I think, is the whole
That's
That's
the rest of
the
it.
issue.
That's a lot.
all questions.
And then this is the back.
So go ahead and do the self-reflection then, provide
So
some
it's
feedback.
27
So,
to 30.
Danny, you're gonna do feedback to Rocky. Rocky's gonna do self-reflection. See what Rocky's practicing.
You need to actually do that. I mean, there's a lot of pages. So this is a big part. So we're not going to do it a little bit better. I mean,
I didn't catch her.
it should be like a,
Yeah.
I think it's like.
it should be like a crew where you're like, somebody's
I don't know how
to
you have everybody
It's
do
a
it.
tough, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
You almost need to like model it first.
That's why I'm wondering if there's a way to
Do an
give
example
I think we may
and
need to.
model it.
And then
I
people
think-
get it. Like, we should have almost done that when we were doing the, scanning in the customer's shoes.
Facial expression.
Right.
I was trying to,
Yeah.
We almost tried to, we had to almost do it
Pull
for
out
the
some,
first,
right?
like, this is how this is gonna go. This
Yes.
is all the groups.
you showed it on.
I did that with one class and it seemed like it went a little bit better.
Yeah, this is the one where you're like, okay, here's
I
an
know, right.
example
Good.
of
You
how
did
to
really
set
good.
up,
Right,
and
right.
like somebody to.
I think
Right.
that would be
Okay.
good.
Right,
And maybe you
okay,
can just do like a 4-minute version.
Okay.
So they kind of get how
Questions
it.
you asked.
Okay, good
Allowed
idea.
allowed me to talk out the
Yeah, I
situation.
should talk about that.
Okay.
I'm still on it. I don't know.
okay, begin to wrap up your feedback
Yeah.
and self-reflection. So Ally and Chrissy, we're kind of bringing it back here after we did the practice.
Are we still?
No, that's it. We'll wrap it up. I think we've pretty much got a chance to work through that. So thank you, team. Lots of good dialogue. So when you practice the question and listening, which strategies and behaviors came most naturally to you? Which ones were most natural?
Follow-up question.
The follow-up questions. Okay, good, Danny. Great. Excellent. Millie, which one did you say?
Oh, I think I jumped over to the listening, the humility.
Listening and humility. Okay, good. Others, what came naturally for you?
Positioning the questions.
Positioning. Okay, Rick. Good, good.
Yeah.
Which strategies were a little bit harder for you?
I don't normally do this, but I found myself doing it, trying to go to the solve instead of
Okay.
doing the questions. which-
Yeah, we were
Okay.
doing.
We did too.
Yeah, right.
Now that I think about it.
And I know that you can't go to the
Right,
solve
right,
until
yeah.
you make the other person.
Hold on, I
think.
need to sure.
Right.
I understand how that
So
makes
I
sense.
kind of worked backwards. I was going to the
Okay.
solve first, and then
kind of-
went back to try to
kind of played around
understand
that
what the
a little bit,
guy's
I mean.
where his pain was coming
Right.
from,
Right.
and then try to read between the lines on where his pain was coming
Okay.
from.
Right.
But I should have done that first instead of last, because Danny gave me the scenario,
Uh-huh.
and so from the scenario, I should have been able to pick out that one part.
I used our
Right.
situation this morning.
Same thing. Oh, you did the same thing?
Same thing, well,
Yeah.
good. Well, that's part of the fun and sharing, kind of in a safe environment. That's good.
Fresh in my mind, so.
I like
How did
that.
And I used the bullets scenario with.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah, wow, yeah. So how did it help you to stand in the customer or team member's shoes?
You felt more empathetic towards.
Felt more empathetic.
the
Okay, good.
situation.
Okay, good. What about others? Did that help you, and how did it help you?
I think definitely you can see the frustration and see what they're having to deal with.
Okay, uh-huh.
And how difficult
Uh-huh.
that is. It's
Okay.
very difficult, yeah.
Good, good, okay. Great. What did you learn from this experience?
That the instructions were difficult.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
we're gonna have
Yes.
to be real,
Yes.
we're gonna have to know exactly how we overcome the misconceptions.
Yeah.
Because we have a room full of facilitators here and we all had misconceptions.
Yeah, yeah.
In the beginning, so.
Good, good. Allison, what did you think about the instructions and the way this was set up? What was your perception?
Sorry. It was a bit much.
Okay.
I was trying to break it down by step to see if I could chunk it.
Right.
But I think that's where the opportunity is to really kind of facilitate this activity a little
Okay.
smoother.
Okay, thank you. Christy, what about insights you picked up from just kind of more the way it was set up and the explanations?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least people have some experience in doing this because we had that feedback in the last module where they practiced the feedback, and I thought that was a little bit similar. So they have a little bit of experience doing this if they've been through the previous modules. But I'm wondering, it says customer team member, and I'm wondering if we should say customer, and if you don't deal directly with customers, it could be a team member. And then just stick with the word customer. Like, do we think that would help eliminate any confusion, or do
Yeah,
we
I
want
think
to leave?
because I did hear customer or team member 3 or 4 times during the, so I was trying to figure out
Confused about who you are, but really
who I am.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you
the customer.
Got it,
People
okay.
who don't interact with the customer.
Right.
Let's just say you have an accounting person. you're
Right.
like, I don't know.
Yes, true.
That's gonna
Okay.
Trip them up a bit.
Okay, thanks for your feedback. Christy, I just turned it up for a second. Your volume was a little light, so I did that.
Well, I
Well,
just did an observation that out of our
Yep.
module,
Yep.
our manual, it's pages 27 to 34
Yep.
just for this
25%
exercise.
of the
A lot there, right.
And 16 minutes could be even 20, you said,
Yeah.
of our 90 minutes is,
Yeah.
I mean, this,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Something tells me to make
Okay.
it shorter than that.
Okay. So I'll bring it to a close just from the facilitation, and this is where it wraps up. So the way it goes is experiencing a conversation like this through the lens of a customer or team member can give you a good sense of what you know and what you don't know about the needs and wants of others. So all things you can follow up on to learn more and drive the relationship even deeper. So speaking of follow-ups, let's spend a few of the final minutes together just summarizing what we've learned in this module. So during the past 2 modules, including today, but even thinking back to October, we explored why uncovering customers' needs and wants matters so much. We've learned about strategies for asking questions to explore needs and wants. And then we've talked about barriers to listening to understand. And we've talked about today the 5 strategies to help you overcome those barriers to listening and listen more effectively to uncover needs and wants of customers and our fellow team members. So now is your chance to figure out what it all means to you, what ideas are you taking away from this, and of course they're going to do the insights and the commitments to wrap it up. And of course additional resources, and that wraps up the class. So we're right at about the 90-minute mark, and we started probably about 10 minutes in. So it looks like that we took about 80 minutes to get through that. And obviously with the numbers that we have and knowing you guys are facilitators, you kind of are working along with it. So that's it for the module. So we're stopping. Now we can talk feedback, facilitator. A couple of things I wanted you to recognize on this as I looked at it. The first one was in the first exercise where you're asking about the different quotes that would be the Brookfield motto. That's a setup, right? That's a setup. So the key to that is because you're checking them off and you discuss and think, oh, this is interesting. And you say, wait a minute, just be quiet, just write down the names. You're like, oh, you fooled me, right? I didn't know I was supposed to remember. So kind of setting up, that's the fun of that. But the point I wanted to make on that is you don't need to spend a lot of time on that. So you don't need to get into a lot of detail. Why is that a good model? Why is that a good? It's just very quick because it's a setup, right?
Yeah.
So all you're doing is, okay.
How well you're listening to them.
Now what I changed in there that wasn't in the facilitator guide because I didn't notice it was just, okay, you can't share it with one another. Because someone might have said, oh, well, what did you say, Dan? What did you say, Cheryl? They could cheat. So that's why I said keep it quiet and you can't look. So I'm like, oh God, I got to remember.
Well, because
that's the point of it. Were you listening?
From the lesson. Right.
Exactly. Were you listening? So I added that in. So the real key on that part of it was really just, having the fun of the setup, but you don't need to go into detail or ask any more questions. Well, Danny, why do you think that's a good model? Doesn't really matter, because the whole point is where you're listening.
Yeah.
So that's the point of that kind of setup on that piece
All
there.
right, what page was that, Brent?
Let's see.
5-7.
Oh, thank you, Susie. So 5.7, it was at the beginning, on the setup. Again, this jumps right into the module. 5.7, page 5.7 is about, let's try something. And so that on 5.7, to Susie's point, is where I modified a little bit and said, okay, in that box at the bottom, write the names of all the other team members and write down what was their recommended motto and what were their notes about it. Why did they like it? Well, that's the challenge. Like, oh man, I got to remember that. So I added that piece just so there was no cheating of me, because I could say, well, Danny, what did you say? And I'm now having to remember. I'm forcing you guys to have to remember. So we're testing your listening. That's what that was.
You said that you say at that point, no speaking or sharing information.
I added that.
Do that quietly.
I added that.
But they can look back at the first page, the quotes.
They could. And then I'm thinking, oh shoot, what did Cheryl say again?
Yeah.
Why? So the point was that some of us did a little better at remembering than others, but that leads to the whole concept of, well, what barriers get in the way? Some of that came up, but it was a way to fool people to get into that. So I think it's a fun exercise. The whole point was you don't need to get into a lot of discussion about why it is that you think that's the right quote. It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's not the purpose of it. The purpose is where you listen. Yeah. So you can move quickly into that and say, okay, now let's figure out how well you were listening.
Yeah.
Without saying that, just say, okay, keep quiet and we'll go through it. The rest of it seems to work pretty well, just kind of going through it. 5.8 is how much did you remember? That's kind of the fun of it, and what gets in the way. And then, 5.9, why you're here. 5.10 is the quote, Epictetus. So that's really getting into, and then the real key is where you go to the chart of, well, what really gets in the way of listening well? And that's what you're really digging out on that after you talk about the numbers on 5.11, which is, how many words we get each day. And that just sets it up for saying, some of it's external, you're getting all these words at you, and some of it's internal. That's where you go to the chart, so people understand, oh yeah, a lot of it's just in my head. I'm not staying focused, to be a good listener. So I think all of that it seems to go pretty well. That's all the internals. And then 5.14, it sets it up right away where you get into the 5 strategies. And there isn't a lot of discussion. Again, it's just me kind of explaining what the strategies are, because the real learning then comes when you look at your manual and begin to start reading on what they are and then checking off a couple that are barriers for you. That's where kind of the learning happens, where you're reading on your own. So the explanation of the strategies goes really pretty quickly. And that's kind of 5.15. I mean, the strategies lay out right away. It's humility, and that's one question. But then, number 2 is listen in silence, saying 6 letters. You just say it isn't the same as listening. Being present, and then you go right into demonstrating authentic interest at the bottom of 5.15. 5.16, based on your experience, how do you know someone's sincerely interested? There's a little dialogue, but then it's right on strategy 4. You got to read between the lines. Then strategy 5 at the bottom of 5.16 is, hey, you got to wrap it up to confirm. So the strategies roll out real quickly. There isn't a lot of discussion, just a few questions, but it goes quick. And then basically they're off to look at the strategies. This is 5.17, where the participant is looking on page 3, where they're now learning about them a little more and then thinking, okay, what are the barriers for me? And then there's that discussion. What works for you, and what will help for you. And then we go right into page 5.18, which is the skit. And I'm glad Rocky said that, because I think they set it up well that Anna does a good job in demonstrating the behaviors. You know, that's the way it's set up, because you basically see how it's performed, and you see that Anna does it well. She's
And
doing
they do suggest that Anna be the facilitator.
They do. That's correct, Cheryl. Thank you. So the suggestion is don't have someone play that, because you want Anna to do it very well. And as facilitators, we're going to know to do it well, and there won't be misreads and things like that.
Yeah.
You can be Anna. You can play Anna. Yep. So that's going through the script. You know, it's the underlining and kind of uncovering. Everyone does some work on that. Let's see. It kind of goes through 520, even 522. So at 522, they do go back to, this is again page 522, they go back to the slide that's the questioning strategy. So they link back to the cue to say, hey, you know, let's also remember that Anna was doing pretty well at question asking too. So let's think about that. So you reflect a little bit on that as she asks questions. Now the next pages are a lot of different questions. I did, and I'll share with you guys, that I consolidated that into kind of responses and the quick questions in a grid, in a table, and then the kind of suggested answers. Because the problem is when it goes so quickly, you're having to look down at the page and answer. So I just consolidated it all. I'll share that with everyone if you think that's helpful. Yeah. But for me, it's too tough to look down and remember where you are. It's right there. Just question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. It's just the way I did it to move through it quickly. So that kind of pulls out 2 pages. And then you would go right to 526. So this kind of consolidates 24 and 25 is what I did. So you can look at that.
Just want to make sure you got the right slide up,
You do, exactly.
because 24 calls for a slide change, right?
It does. That you would be on 22 on question asking. Let's see, Rocky. So 24 had another slide. Oh yes, that's the customer service is what we do versus customer experience. So those are the 2 triangles.
Yeah.
And you made the point, so I borrowed off of your point and then went to the slide. But the slide would be the next one to make sure those points are accentuated. Yeah. Good. And then you go to 526. You go back to the QL link slide, and then you explain we're going to practice this, but we're going to do a twist. And then that gets into the big, heavy practice module that we went through. And that's why I wanted you guys just to try it, because I wanted you to determine, could I even explain it well? What can we do differently? Does the exercise even work? But I talked to Julie about it, because I said, this seems kind of wild, you know. And so she gave me a few phrases like it is an alternate universe, but tried to explain it. I thought, whoo, this is a lot. And just that, the instructions on that page is a lot for the team members. Wow, what am I doing? So I tried to chunk it, kind of like what Allie said, a little step at a time. But there's still a lot there to take in. And then Rocky reflected, boy, you're saying customer and team member, and I'm kind of going back and forth. You know, there were the questions which, you know, well, wait, what's my role? How am I supposed to play this role? So it really is a role reversal. That may be a better term.
Right, I like that term better than
role reversal.
Than alternate universe.
Yes.
So role reversal maybe makes sense.
Yeah.
But it still takes taking some time to get your head around.
Explain the person, or explain the situation with the person that you've got a little rough water with.
Yes.
And then step into their shoes.
Yeah.
And write down your needs and wants through their lens, through their perspective.
Yeah.
And assume that person's role while you're explaining it to your partner.
Yeah.
Because I think where I got confused was team member or customer, team member or customer, and then was like, am I explaining it?
By the team member or the customer.
Right.
I know who I am, but who am I explaining it to?
Right.
You're just explaining it to a partner.
Yes. Correct.
And then the partner's gonna ask you questions.
Right.
They're
Exactly.
Going to be you.
Yeah.
They're playing you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because several of you picked up on why she's having us do this, because when you put yourself in the customer's shoes, you're like, oh, I can be more empathetic. I kind of see where they're coming from, playing their role, and having someone else ask the questions.
Well, and I came up with a solution to my particular thing, or we came up with a solution, and that is just to let them know that this particular process that they want to follow creates a lot of extra work for other departments.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And maybe they don't understand that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cheryl, Susie, and I talked, because they had some, you know, challenges, but they came to them pretty quickly. I mean, they're pretty easy to kind of jump to those, so they were free. So I think that could be part of the challenge of the exercise, is kind of finding the magic of kind of the right scenario. And I think that for some of our team members may be a little challenging, you know, getting the right one. So there was a little bit of conversation with Cheryl, Susie, and I, as you guys were going through the exercise, about maybe we need a couple of samples or a scenario, or maybe to introduce it with a scenario. It's going to add some time, obviously, but to set it up.
Yeah, because, and then the only other thing is if your partner ends up being somebody who's saying something about a role you have no idea about,
Right.
it's hard to even phrase questions. Like if I was
Right.
with purchasing, and purchasing is, I now have to be the person that's asking questions about purchasing.
Yeah.
I don't even know the first question to ask because I don't understand purchasing,
Well,
what they do. So
following
how do you do that?
the sample, I mean, we've got sample questions to get us started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can I help you?
How does that
You know,
make you feel?
Tell me more about this.
Yeah, that's the only, I'm just thinking like,
And I think the
Yeah.
key is that, like Rocky mentioned and Brent, is that we're not, the exercise is not to resolve it. It's
Yeah.
just to make the human connection and to.
and that is
Yeah,
hard.
take
You want to,
it.
you want to solve it. I know, you're right.
Yeah.
So I don't really need to know maybe that
Right.
much. I'm just asking questions and being present.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because that's kind of the practice. You ask some questions, and then really are you expressing the listening skills and trying to do that. That's kind of the focus. But yeah, it comes natural. Try to solve it, but that's really the practice.
So I'm going to add that as one of my notes, but
Mhm.
don't try and solve it. So I think
Right.
we say that up front.
Right. Now, I did have to go back and forth kind of between the groups and clarify some things. Naturally, there were a few questions to understand it. So, I mean, it will be valuable to have that second facilitator there. You know, if I'm to have that second helping to talk, especially in our big 25 group classes, you know.
Because you're gonna have, 12
People
groups going on.
and understanding what am I supposed to do. So, you know, welcome to the feedback and ideas. We talked about a sample scenario. It might be worth having that for that particular exercise. And I'll take it back to Julie, kind of what our feedback was. But I wanted you to kind of see it and test in the way, at least I thought approaching it was just even how to set it up. And there's a lot there, obviously. And then just getting them to go through it too.
So I think I've kind of worked out what I'll probably do.
Okay.
Is use a sample scenario and use names.
Okay. Right.
Because when you use pronouns,
Mm-hmm.
you know, him, her, she, the, you know, or customer, team member,
Right.
I think it gets confusing. So
Okay.
I'll give you a brief scenario.
Okay.
So you got Sal and you got Joe. Sal's having a hard time getting along with Joe, but Sal's gonna put himself into Joe's shoes. And Joe is, you know, he's demanding on doing things a certain way and this and that and the other. Sal's gonna try to figure out why he feels that way, why things have to be made that way. I don't know if that had any clarity for you, but it adds.
Similar to having
Right.
a sample is breaking it down
Yeah.
so they can kind of see,
Yeah.
okay, I get it, I get it.
Joe's gonna go stand in Sal's shoes
Yeah.
and he's gonna try to see it through his perspective on why his needs are this and why his wants are this.
Okay, good. Okay, great, good,
I like that.
good. Allison and Christy, any insights from what you've seen in the whole module, or especially the practice at the end?
I like what Rocky said. I mean, I think that'll help set the stage. And sometimes with this stuff, you just have to review it a couple of times and figure out how you might explain the activity a little bit differently so that people are understanding it. You know, I mean, sometimes it's just a little bit different from what's written because when you have a larger size group or something like that, you just, you might find like your own way of explaining it that people are understanding better.
Yeah, okay, good. Allie, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it just, you know, there's a lot in this activity. And I just think as we're facilitating it, making sure that we're clarifying with the participants as we're explaining it.
Okay, good, thank you. Well, I'll take the ideas back to Julie and kind of the feedback of how it went with the exercise. And I think borrowing from Rocky's suggestion on kind of a sample, and we can type that out so you'll have something written you can kind of read on that, kind of the Sal and Joe scenario. Try that. I mean, if you guys want, we can reconvene next week. If you guys want to try practicing it, one of you, try it. We could try it with a different scenario if you feel that's helpful. Whatever you think is appropriate. I mean, obviously you can go back kind of through the module now and get a sense of kind of where it is, but that's the one piece I think of all of it. That and the first section of just not getting caught wanting to talk about what the right motto is. Again, you don't need to do that. That's why I just wanted to be clear and have you guys try it. Good. And modify it a little bit where we tell them you can't talk and don't look at the other person's paper. I think if we do that, it'll keep it fun. The rest of it flows really smoothly in my mind. It flows. It's easy and it's quick. It's that last one that we just kind of got to nail. Yep. But any other thoughts on any other parts of the module? You know how to pronounce Epictetus.
I wrote it down different. I got it.
Call me.
What is it?
E.
E. E for big ears.
Epictetus.
Epictetus. Yeah.
It's epic and it's not tedious.
On page 530, the top, it says to refer to the chart that we had last time, open questions. So I didn't see that we did that. Should we?
Oh, thank you. No, I missed that. I did see that.
I was wondering, do we need it? I don't know if we need it or not. But.
Well, the one thought that I had on that was, and I just missed it, was just to ask them about when we do question answer, you remember open questions, and let's refresh our memory from October. What are open questions again?
So do we have those charts?
We don't. We didn't.
Okay, we could just write a chart.
We could do some examples and put up them, or just have the dialogue.
Just say start your question with who, what, why, where.
That's what I.
Close questions.
I just put the words.
Yeah. I think we can quickly summarize that. Yeah. And if we had saved those, then you kind of go back and reflect on those. But that's just to kind of refresh their memories on making sure that you're using those open questions.
Yeah, especially because some of them may attend different sessions.
Yeah, with
Yes.
the same one.
That's a great point, Millie. Right. Yeah, true. Yeah.
Great facilitation, Brent.
Oh,
Always
thanks, Chris. That was good.
Good job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I thought it was good just to test it out, especially with this one, because I don't think any of us had a chance to do a teach back. When I asked Julie, I don't think it was done for any of the regions that we had here.
Yeah, Robert did just a small portion.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Some of it seemed familiar. I didn't think
Oh,
you
got
did
it.
it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad some of you had a chance to. Okay.
I did sit in for